They left her for dead in a burning crater while the galaxy looked the other way. He picked her up, and together they rewrote the rules of war, love, and what it means to be human. The air over Velnara Ridge was thick with the scent of burned metal and ionized dust. The sky, once sapphire blue, had turned the color of bruised plum, a storm of ash and electromagnetic residue drifting like ghosts over the battlefield. Sergeant Jonah Hale trudged across the slope, his boots crunching over glassy fragments of melted alloy and bone-dry sand. The battle had ended hours ago, but the world still echoed with the ghost hum of dying machines. His HUD flickered static. His comm unit was dead. The retreat signal had gone out 2 hours back. Everyone else had already pulled out toward the extraction point beyond the canyon. He should have gone too, but something about silence made him pause. The distance, what had been a city, smoldered. Towers leaning like broken teeth. The horizon lit by pulsing red fires. Drones buzzed weakly overhead, trying to limp their way back to motherships that no longer existed. Jonah's armor was scorched in 3 places, his left pauldron dented from a glancing plasma round. Every breath scraped his throat raw, but what unsettled him most wasn't the pain. It was the feeling that someone was still here. Watching, he should have turned back. Instead, he pushed deeper into the debris field. A glint caught his eye. Not metal, not wreckage, something organic. He descended a slope of burned soil toward a crater rim where smoke curled lazily upward. At the center lay a figure half buried beneath a fallen banner, a torn standard of the Vile Dominion, the alien empire humanity had fought beside and against in a dozen fractured alliances. The figure was unmistakably female. Her armor shimmered in shifting hues like oil on water, adaptive plating common to Veil officers. She was breathing. Barely. Jonah's instinct screamed trap, but something else tugged harder. The old human reflex to help. The thing that no amount of war training had managed to burn out of him. He knelt, his gauntlet brushing away ash from her face. She was beautiful in a strange, austere way. Skin the color of dusk-touched sea. Hair streaked with fine metallic filaments that pulsed faintly as if alive. Her eyes fluttered open, silver pupils dilated against black sclera. They focused on him with effort, and when she spoke, her voice was music warped by pain. "You human?" He nodded automatically, though he wasn't sure why he cared what she thought. "Yes, ma'am. Sergeant Hale. Earth Marines. You're lucky to be breathing." Her mouth twitched into something that might have been a smile. "Not luck," she rasped. "Stubbornness." Jonah chuckled softly despite himself. "We've got that in common." He scanned her with the handheld med reader from his pack. Readings spiked red. Her spinal nodes were shattered, neural flow disrupted from midline down. The Vial physiology was complex. Symbiotic fibers and crystalline nerve conduits, but he didn't need alien medical data to know what that meant. Paralysis. Permanent. If untreated soon. He looked around. The ridge was empty except for smoke and the slow crawl of drones scavenging bodies. No medical units. No evac beacons. No one coming. He was already on someone's casualty list. A line of code in some officer's report. Left behind, non-recoverable. Jonah cursed under his breath. He could walk away, save his own life. The extraction convoy wouldn't wait forever, but when he looked at her again, this proud alien warrior gasping in the dirt, pinned under the flag of a dead empire, something in him rebelled. "Hold still," he said quietly, sliding his arms under her shoulders. "You're getting out of this hole." Her voice trembled. "Orders. Say leave all wounded. No retrieval. Enemy zone." Jonah smirked, the expression weary but defiant. "Yeah? Good thing I don't take orders well." He hoisted her carefully, feeling her weight settle against him. She gasped as the motion sent waves of pain through her damaged spine, but didn't protest. Her head rested against his chest plate, her breath shallow and quick. As he began climbing out of the crater, the wind shifted, carrying the distant crackle of plasma fire. The enemy wasn't far behind, but Jonah didn't care. Something inside him had already decided. He wouldn't be one more coward stepping over the fallen. The sun broke through the haze for a moment, a single beam of light slicing across the smoke. It touched the curve of her face, glinting on the metallic strands of her hair. For that heartbeat, Jonah thought she looked less like a soldier and more like a symbol, the last spark of something worth saving in a galaxy that had forgotten mercy. He adjusted his grip and started down the ridge, whispering to himself, "Hang in there, alien. I've got you." And somewhere behind him, the battlefield groaned, as if the world itself had just noticed that one stubborn human had decided to disobey it. The evacuation order crackled once more through Jonah's failing comm unit, a hollow echo swallowed by static. All units, retreat to extraction grid 12. Repeat, then silence. Just the wind and the hum of cooling plasma burns across the ridge. Jonah tightened his grip on the alien woman's limp form. She was lighter than her armor made her look, her breathing uneven, shallow. Her pulse flickered weakly against his forearm. Every instinct screamed at him to move faster, to get back to the convoy before it lifted off. The smoke-choked sky above shimmered with the glow of departing thrusters, human ships pulling out, his only ride home. He looked down at her. Her eyes, half open, glazed with pain. Her lips trembled. "Leave me," she murmured, voice broken and hoarse. "You cannot carry what fate has discarded." "Fate?" Jonah muttered, adjusting his grip. "Lady, I stopped believing in fate when my first unit burned alive on Eurydice." He took a step forward through the rubble and stumbled. The world tilted. His armor servos whined in protest. Carrying her was dragging him down, literally. Weight readings flashed red in his visor. Warning. Power core stress limit exceeded. He could drop her right here. Call it mercy. He imagined reporting back. Found one of theirs alive. Couldn't save her. Heavy damage, enemy close. Nobody would question it. Nobody ever did. But when he looked at her again, those faintly luminescent veins pulsing under cracked armor, that proud Viel crest still etched into her collar. Something old and defiant stirred in his chest. A memory of his sister, of the time he carried her through a burning house before the colony fell. Back then, he hadn't thought about consequences. He'd just acted, because it was right. Another explosion rolled across the horizon, throwing up a wall of dust. His visor flared warning symbols. He ducked behind a half-melted wall, shielding the alien's body with his own. The blast rumbled through the ground like the heartbeat of a dying planet. Through the haze, he saw movement. 3 human troopers in standard-issue armor sprinting across the field toward the evac zone. One of them, Corporal Dyson, turned and spotted Jonah. "Sergeant," he yelled, "we're pulling out. Command says no retrievals. Zones collapsing. Let's move." Jonah waved, shouting back, "I've got a wounded Vial officer here." Dyson hesitated. "Then leave her." "She's not one of us." Jonah stared, disbelief cutting through exhaustion. "She fought with us." "Not anymore." "Orders hail. You disobey. You're on your own." The 3 soldiers vanished into the fog. Their footsteps faded. The sound that replaced them was a low, rhythmic whine. Enemy drones locking onto movement signatures. The metallic buzz grew louder by the second. Selthari's eyes fluttered. "You must go," she whispered, voice trembling. "If you stay, you die." Jonah looked toward the smoke where his comrades had gone, then down at her pale, trembling form. There it was, the impossible choice. Duty or compassion? Logic or heart? humanity's eternal war. He set his jaw. "Guess I've died before," he muttered. "Didn't stick." Her breath hitched, surprise, maybe disbelief, as he crouched lower, slinging her across his back, securing her with the last of his magnetic harness clips. The weight almost dropped him to his knees, but he pushed through it, gritting his teeth. Behind them, drones crested the ridge, the red optics scanning the ground. Jonah ducked into the ruins of an old power conduit, crouching low, his pulse matching the hum of his overtaxed armor. He moved between shadows, each step a gamble. As the last human transport roared into the sky, leaving streaks of fire behind it, Jonah whispered, "They'll call me crazy for this." Selthari, barely conscious, murmured something soft. Words in her alien tongue, quiet as breath. It might have been a prayer or a curse. Jonah didn't ask. He just kept walking. Through the smoke and ruin, through the screams of dying engines, he carried her into the wasteland, a lone human defying every command written by men who'd forgotten what it meant to feel. The impossible choice had been made, and somewhere deep inside, the universe shuddered, because one man had chosen mercy in a galaxy built on abandonment. The ruins had gone quiet by the time Jonah found a half-collapsed cargo shelter at the canyon's edge. The roof sagged, the walls were scorched, but it would do. He laid Selthari down gently on a bed of rationed cloth and broken insulation, her breathing shallow but steady. The night sky above them flickered with distant lightning, the aftershocks of orbital bombardment. Jonah crouched beside her, pulling open his med pack. He'd patched up humans before, never a Vael. Her biology looked like a miracle and a nightmare. Pale circuits running under translucent skin, glowing veins that dimmed and brightened with her pulse. Every movement sent a flicker of pain through her face, though she tried to hide it behind warrior discipline. "Don't move," Jonah murmured. "You're in rough shape." She let out a bitter laugh, soft as wind. "Rough shape. That is your word for paralysis?" He smiled faintly. "We've got worse words. You don't want to hear them." Her gaze drifted toward the collapsed doorway, silver eyes reflecting the firelight. "You are disobeying orders," she said quietly. "Your commanders will exile you." Jonah applied a field patch along her spine, the med gel hissing as it sealed the cracked exoskin. Wouldn't be the first time. "You risk everything," she whispered, "for an enemy." "I'm not sure anyone's keeping score anymore," Jonah said, voice low. "You're just someone who needed help." "That's enough." For a moment, she said nothing. Only the hum of the wind filled the silence. Then her hand, trembling, elegant, strangely human, brushed his wrist. "You should not waste your mercy here," she said softly. "I cannot walk again. The lattice is broken. My people will not heal me." "Then they're fools," Jonah said, tightening the last patch. "You're still breathing." "That's reason enough." Her lips parted slightly. "You think life is reason?" He met her eyes. "Always." The words hung between them, fragile, almost sacred. Her expression softened, a faint shift from pride to something uncertain, maybe hope. For a second, the distance between human and alien didn't matter. Jonah leaned back, wiping sweat from his brow. His armor was cracked, his oxygen low, but he felt strangely alive. There was something in her, strength behind the pain, and that made the world's noise fade away. "Rest," he said quietly. "I'll keep watch." As he turned toward the door, Selthari whispered in her language, a slow, melodic phrase that seemed to shimmer in the air. He didn't understand, but the tone was gentle, almost thankful. He smiled without turning around. "You're welcome," whatever that meant. Outside, the wind carried the smell of ash and electricity. Inside, under the broken roof of an alien world, two enemies lay side by side, not as soldier and captive, but as the last flicker of decency in a galaxy gone dark. And though neither knew it yet, this night, this quiet moment of mercy, would be the first heartbeat of something that would one day change everything. Dawn came bleeding red across the wasteland. Smoke coiled from the hills, painting the horizon in streaks of amber and gray. Jonah tightened the straps around Selthari's harness and adjusted the broken rifle slung over his shoulder. They had to move. The scanners on his gauntlet showed enemy drones sweeping closer every hour. Selthari watched him through half-lidded eyes. "You look tired, human," she murmured. "Even your stubbornness has limits." Jonah smirked. "You haven't met me long enough to say that." He crouched beside her, sliding his arm beneath her shoulders. "You ready to see what's left of your world?" Her expression flickered. Pain, pride, maybe both. "You speak as though it is yours, too." "Today, it is." They started through the ruins, moving from shadow to shadow. Jonah carried her when the terrain broke into jagged glass fields, his boots crunching over shattered steel. Every few minutes, the air trembled with distant gunfire. A shrill whine cut through the wind. Then a plasma bolt slammed into the wall beside them, spraying molten debris. Jonah ducked instinctively, pressing Selthari to the ground. "Contact!" he hissed, swinging his carbine into place. 3 drones swooped from the clouds, metallic wings slicing through the air. Selthari's voice sharpened instantly. "Pattern, Delta 3, low altitude. Their blind spot is beneath the stabilizers." Jonah grinned. "Appreciate the coaching, Lieutenant." He rolled out, fired twice, and hit the first drone dead center. The second veered, its plasma cannon scorching the dirt where they'd been. Selthari, gripping a shard of her broken armor, flung it toward a weak point in the machine's wing. It struck with impossible precision. The drone spiraled and exploded. Jonah glanced at her. Not bad for someone who said she couldn't move. Her smirk was faint but real. Paralyzed does not mean useless. The third drone banked, readying for a final strike. Jonah threw his last grenade. It detonated mid-air, showering sparks. Silence followed, save for the crackle of burning metal. Jonah exhaled, adrenaline fading. "Remind me never to argue with you again." "You will," she said calmly. "Humans always do." He laughed, breathless, then looked toward the distant valley where an old medship's silhouette jutted against the sky. "That's our next stop. Maybe your people left something we can use." Selthari turned her gaze that way, the faintest light returning to her eyes. "Or maybe," she said softly, "fate has not finished with us yet." Jonah adjusted his grip on her and started walking. "Then let's go meet it halfway." Behind them, smoke rose from the wrecks, and for the first time since the war began, Jonah realized he wasn't running from death anymore. He was carrying hope on his back. The valley was silent except for the hiss of cooling metal. The wrecked Vial medship rested like a fallen monument, half buried in the sand, hull split open, glowing faintly from internal energy leaks. Its once elegant curves were now blackened and scarred, but even broken, it radiated something sacred. Jonah approached cautiously, carrying Selthari in his arms. "So, this is your people's hospital ship?" She nodded weakly. "Once. It healed hundreds, before they turned it into a target." The air was thick with ozone and strange incense. Bioluminescent roots crawled across the floor, still pulsing with life. The interior walls shimmered like muscle tissue. Organic, alive. Jonah had seen human medical tech, all wires and steel, but this This felt like walking into a cathedral. Selthari's eyes widened faintly. The weave core still glows. Jonah followed her gaze to a crystal chamber at the center of the ship, glowing soft blue. "That thing can fix your spine?" "In theory," she said, her voice hushed with reverence. "It is a neural lattice, an ancient vial relic. It heals by merging consciousness. Two minds share energy until the broken one remembers how to live." He frowned. "You mean it needs two people?" "Yes." Her tone darkened. One must join the patient's essence, risk losing themselves. That is why it is forbidden. Jonah looked at the chamber, the soft hum filling the air like a heartbeat. "And no one else volunteered." Her lips trembled. "No one stays for the broken." Jonah exhaled slowly, setting her near the base of the device. "Then I guess you've got one stubborn human who doesn't follow rules." She stared at him, eyes wide. "You cannot." The weave was made for Veil. It could destroy you. He smiled faintly. "Lady, everything out here's trying to destroy me. At least this one might help someone in the process." For a heartbeat, silence. Then a flicker of something almost like fear, or maybe hope, crossed her face. "If you do this, we will be bound, mind to mind. There is no undoing it." Jonah met her gaze steadily. "Then let's make sure it's worth it." The crystal chamber pulsed brighter, light spilling over their faces. Selthari's breath hitched as she reached toward his hand. And as their fingers touched, the ship came alive, whispering in a language neither could fully understand. The chamber awakened like a sleeping god. Lines of light crawled across the walls, veins of silver and blue running toward the crystalline pod at its center. Jonah stood beside Selthari, feeling the hum vibrate in his bones. The air smelled of ozone and something sweet, like rain on metal. Selthari's fingers trembled as she brushed the control glyphs. "Once we enter, the lattice will merge our neural patterns. It heals by remembering what it means to live." Jonah raised an eyebrow. "Sounds poetic." "It is not poetry," she said softly. "It is surrender. You must share your essence with mine, memories, pain, maybe even death." He studied her face. Tired, proud, terrified. Then he smiled, the small, crooked smile of a man who had already lost too much to fear. "Then let's give it something to remember." He helped her into the chamber. The walls folded inward, enclosing them in liquid light. The surface rippled, swallowing sound until only their breathing remained. "Close your eyes," Selthari whispered. "Think of what anchors you." Jonah obeyed. In the darkness, he saw his childhood home, the laughter of his squad, the faces of the dead. Then he felt her, a rush of alien warmth, a storm of memories not his own. Silver cities suspended in clouds, children laughing in gravity wells, the quiet pride of a warrior culture that once sang before battle. Their minds collided, then aligned. For a heartbeat, he was her, and she was him. Pain surged through them both, sharp and beautiful, like two broken notes finding harmony. Selthari gasped as energy coursed down her spine, nerves reknitting in cascades of light. Jonah's vision blurred, memories bleeding together, love and loss merging. He saw through her eyes. Himself, kneeling in the ash, refusing to leave. The chamber pulsed once, twice, then went still. The door hissed open. Jonah stumbled forward, disoriented, skin prickling with static. Selthari sat upright inside, trembling, but her legs moved. Her eyes, bright and tear-filled, met his. "You did it," he breathed. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We did." For a moment, they just stared, two souls entangled by light and choice. Somewhere deep in both their minds, a new heartbeat echoed, one that no longer belonged to either alone. When Jonah woke, the world felt wrong, too sharp, too alive. Every sound carried a shape. He could hear the rhythm of dripping coolant 3 rooms away, taste the faint electricity in the air, feel the heartbeat of the alien woman beside him before he opened his eyes. Selthari was already awake. She stood, testing her balance, legs trembling like a newborn fawn's. The glow beneath her skin pulsed in sync with his own pulse, as if their bodies had agreed to share one rhythm. "How do you feel?" Jonah asked, voice hoarse. She turned, eyes silver bright. "Alive. And not alone." He blinked, then realized he could feel her smile echo faintly inside his mind, like a thought whispered in his own head. It wasn't words. It was emotion, rippling through the bond the weave had forged. "Can you hear me?" Her voice whispered, not through sound, but directly in his thoughts. Jonah froze. "Oh, hell no." "Telepathy?" Selthari's laughter chimed softly in his skull. "Not telepathy. Connection." He groaned. "Great. Now I can't even keep my own thoughts private. Then keep only the good ones," she teased gently. Their shared amusement faded as motion stirred outside the wreck. Jonah turned, scanning the sensor feed on his gauntlet, red blips closing in fast. Enemy patrols. Korvax's scouts. Selthari felt his pulse quicken before he spoke. "They found us," she said. Jonah loaded his rifle, his tone steady. "Then we move before they pin us down." She nodded, already predicting his thoughts. Left corridor. Narrow, ambush potential. He gave her a sidelong look. "You really can read my mind." "No," she corrected softly. "I feel your instincts. They burn hot, like stars. Humans. You never quiet your hearts." Jonah almost smiled. "Yeah, well, that's what gets us killed. Or what keeps us alive," she countered. Outside, metal boots crunched closer. Jonah crouched low, signaling her to cover. But before he could act, Selthari reached out, and the shattered ship walls vibrated. Circuits reignited, forming a pulse of shimmering light that distorted their outlines. A cloaking field. Jonah blinked. "You could have led with that." Her faint grin returned. "I am still learning." "As are you." Through the veil, they watched soldiers sweep past, unaware. Their breaths synchronized. Fear became focus. The bond between them hummed like a shared heartbeat. And as the enemy disappeared into the dust, Jonah whispered, "Guess this connection thing has its perks." Selthari met his gaze, her eyes softer now. "It is more than a perk, Jonah Hale. It is destiny choosing to remember mercy." He wasn't sure what that meant, but for the first time since the war began, destiny didn't sound like a threat. Night draped the valley in violet mist. The storm clouds above glowed faintly from orbit fires still burning miles away. Jonah and Selthari moved through the ruins like shadows stitched together by purpose. Every step felt guided. Not planned, but shared. Through the link, Jonah could sense her thoughts, shapes of strategy, flashes of alien symbols, the cold discipline of a commander reborn. In return, she felt his instincts, the twitch of his trigger finger, the way he measured every corner, every breath before danger. It wasn't telepathy. It was choreography. They reached a shattered corridor where the air shimmered with energy nets. Jonah froze. "Trip mines," he whispered. "Motion sensitive." Selthari knelt beside him, fingers tracing the faint patterns of light. "Old, vile design. I can disarm them, but you must hold the current steady." He crouched opposite her, steadying the power conduit while she worked. The glow lit her face. Half warrior, half wonder. Sweat beaded at his temple. "So," he muttered, voice low, "is this your idea of a first date?" Her lips curved slightly. "Among my people, danger is courtship." Jonah grinned. Lucky me. The net flickered, then died. They slipped through just as a patrol passed overhead. 2 drones and a Vial soldier scanning the wreckage. Jonah pressed Selthari back against the wall, his arm braced beside her. The closeness startled them both. Her breath hitched, his pulse thundered. They will hear you. Her thought brushed across his mind, teasing and urgent. Then stop breathing so loud, he replied, and she nearly smiled. The patrol passed. Silence returned. But something between them had changed. An invisible thread pulled tighter. They moved again, silent and fluid. She guided him through alien corridors, past flickering glyphs and dead stasis pods. Their movements were precise, almost like a dance, his rough efficiency balancing her grace. Finally, they reached the medship's command core. Holograms sputtered to life, casting the room in pale light. Selthari's eyes widened at the files scrolling past. These are sealed orders from the Dominion Council. Jonah frowned. You mean your leaders? Yes, she whispered, voice trembling. And yours. Look, joint directives, signed by both human and Veil commanders, testing weapons on neutral colonies. His jaw tightened. War crimes. Selthari's hands shook. They sacrificed our soldiers, my squad, for data. Jonah stared at the holograms, rage boiling beneath exhaustion. That we burn it all. Every secret. Every lie. For a long moment, they just stood there. 2 soldiers from different worlds bonded by pain and fire. The silence between them felt heavy, sacred. Selthari reached out, fingertips brushing his. Perhaps, she whispered, this bond was never meant to heal our bodies, but our worlds. Jonah squeezed her hand gently. Then let's start with the truth. And as the files began uploading into the night sky, the medship's lights flared like a heartbeat returning to life. The holoscreens filled the chamber with trembling light. Lines of coded messages unfolded into clear text. Orders, transactions, casualty projections. Jonah read them in silence, his stomach turning with every new revelation. The Vile Dominion and the United Earth Command, sworn enemies, had been allies once, long before the war fractured their peace. But these documents showed something worse than betrayal. They had never stopped working together. Selthari's hands hovered over the console, her voice low and shaking. These coordinates, these are Vile colony worlds. They were marked for sterilization tests, Jonah scrolled further. And these? Human settlements on the frontier. Same treatment. Joint operations. Her gaze snapped toward him. They experimented on your people too. He nodded grimly. Looks like it. Bioweapons disguised as peacekeeping measures. My God! Selthari stepped back, her breath coming fast. The faint glow beneath her skin pulsed erratically, echoing her fury. My command was ordered to retreat from this sector. They said it was for tactical withdrawal, but it was to leave civilians exposed. To test a containment field, Jonah clenched his fists. They let billions burn to prove a theory. Her voice broke. We were the experiment. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of dying machinery. Jonah stared at the holographic signatures at the bottom of the documents. Admirals, generals, ministers, the very people they had fought for. He exhaled slowly. We need to get this out. Broadcast it. Selthari shook her head. If they trace the signal, they'll send everything they have. Then they'll have to catch us first. Their eyes met. Hers full of pain, his of fire. The bond between them pulsed, their shared emotions blurring. He could feel her heart break as if it were his own. She reached out, resting her hand on his chest plate. Jonah, if we expose this, the Dominion and the Command will turn on us both. We will be hunted. Jonah gave a small, grim smile. Yeah, well, I was already AWOL. Selthari studied him for a heartbeat, then nodded. Then we run toward the truth, not away from it. Together, they uploaded the files to every open frequency they could reach. The medship trembled, lights flickering as data streamed into the void, evidence scattering like seeds of rebellion. As the last file transmitted, Selthari turned to him. When this reaches the galaxy, there will be war again. Jonah holstered his rifle. Then let's make sure this time it's the right one. Outside, the first enemy pings lit up their scanners. The Empire was already waking to silence them. But the truth was out, and that was something no fleet could ever kill. The medship groaned as distant explosions shook its frame. The upload was complete, but the retaliation had begun. Enemy scanners locked onto their signal, and orbital strikes flashed in the clouds above. Jonah slammed his fist against the terminal. They're jamming escape routes. We need to move. Selthari steadied herself on the console, legs still weak but working. The secondary core, beneath us. It can shield the ship for a time. But the weave link will overload if we push it. Then we burn it, Jonah said. One last trick. But before he could move, her hand caught his arm. He turned and saw the raw emotion in her silver eyes. You risked your life for me, she whispered. And now you burn for a truth that might never free you. Jonah met her gaze, voice steady. Freedom's not the point. It's doing what's right when no one else will. She stepped closer, the light from the consoles washing over her face. He could feel her heartbeat, their heartbeat through the bond. When we merged, she said softly, I saw your memories, your grief, your courage. I thought humans were reckless, but you carry love like a weapon. He smiled faintly. Guess it's the only one that still works. The floor shuddered as a blast wave hit nearby. Dust rained from the ceiling. They were running out of time, but neither moved. Selthari's hand rose, trembling, touching the side of his helmet. You shared your soul with me, Jonah Hale. You made me remember who I was. Her words cracked something open in him. He reached up, unlatched his visor, and let it fall away. The air between them shimmered faintly, charged with both danger and something fragile. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. Then, quietly, she whispered, Among my people, when two minds survive the weave, they are bound forever. He smiled. Guess I'm stuck with you then. Her laugh was soft, musical, trembling with emotion. You say that like a promise. He leaned closer, the chaos around them fading into background noise. The hum of the core, the crackle of distant fire, all of it vanished as their lips met. It wasn't desperate or hurried. It was quiet, inevitable. The kind of kiss born not from lust, but from two souls who had already shared everything else. When they broke apart, the bond between them pulsed brighter, alive with new warmth. Jonah's calm flickered with warnings. Enemy breach, 30 seconds. Selthari drew in a steady breath, her voice firm again. Then let us show them what love and defiance can do. And together, hand in hand, they turned toward the storm outside the medship, split open with thunder. Through the fractured hull, streaks of crimson light cut across the dark sky, dropships descending like knives. Jonah and Selthara stood side by side at the command deck, watching as enemy signatures bloomed across the radar like an infection spreading fast. A deep, distorted voice echoed through the static. Sergeant Jonah Hale, Lieutenant Selthari of Vial. The voice dripped authority and venom. This is Admiral Korvax. You will surrender the data you've stolen and submit to judgment. Selthari's breath caught. Korvax, she whispered. the warlord who commanded the extermination fleets. Jonah's jaw tightened. He sounds friendly. Another transmission, clearer this time. You've exposed crimes beyond your comprehension, soldier. Do you think the galaxy will thank you? Do you think mercy survives truth? Jonah killed the channel with a flick. I've had enough speeches. Outside, landing craft hit the ground, their engines screaming. Armored soldiers poured out, the elite of both armies, Va'el enforcers and human blackguard, united under Korvax's symbol. The hypocrisy burned Jonah's gut raw. Selthari turned toward him, her face calm but resolute. He means to erase us both. To erase the proof, then we don't let him. Jonah checked his rifle, chambered the last cell. We make a stand. As they moved to the lower deck, the bond between them pulsed, energy humming in their veins. Jonah could feel her resolve, her fear, her fire. It was like carrying another heartbeat beside his own. The hull doors exploded inward, molten metal raining down. Soldiers stormed in, rifles raised. Jonah fired first, his shots clean and precise. Selthari moved beside him like liquid flame, her newly healed body flowing with inhuman grace. She deflected bolts with a stolen blade, each strike guided by the shared instincts between them. Korvax entered last, towering, broad, eyes glowing red through his command visor. His armor was ceremonial and cruel, trimmed in black and gold. I should have left your species extinct, he hissed. Jonah stepped forward, gun raised. You tried, Korvax sneered. Do you think one soldier and one crippled alien can undo an empire? Selthari's voice rang clear. We already have. Energy crackled between them as their connection surged, a visible arc of light running from her hand to Jonah's chest plate. Their shared will radiated like a living weapon. Korvax aimed his gauntlet cannon. Then die together. Jonah smiled grimly. That's the plan. The blast tore through the chamber, and the world exploded into light. The explosion ripped the deck apart. Dust and flame swallowed the command hall. Jonah hit the floor hard, his ears ringing, vision blurred, but through the chaos he still felt her. The pulse in his mind, Selthari's heartbeat, steady, alive. He rolled to his knees, coughing smoke. Sel! I'm here, her voice echoed, not through the air, but straight into his mind. She rose from the haze, hair glowing with static, blade drawn, eyes bright with defiance. Korvax's laughter thundered through the chamber. You think a bond can save you? He advanced, his soldiers regrouping behind him. You've broken every law of man and vile alike. I'll make legends of your corpses. Jonah smirked, aiming his rifle. Funny, I was thinking the same thing. Then they moved. Jonah's every step matched Selthari's, every shot synchronized with her blade. He'd fire left, she'd pivot right, striking before the enemy could react. Their bond made them one rhythm, one heartbeat. The world slowed around them, every movement part of the same impossible dance. The first wave fell, then the second. Korvax's armor shimmered as he raised his energy shield, deflecting their attacks with contemptuous ease. Pathetic! He roared, swinging his plasma halberd in a wide arc. Jonah dodged, but the weapon grazed his shoulder, searing through the armor. Pain flared white-hot, but Selthari gasped as if she'd been struck too. Their connection cut both ways. He grit his teeth. Don't you dare take this pain for me. Her voice answered in his head, fierce and clear. Then stand and fight, human. They lunged together. Jonah fired point-blank at the Admiral's arm joint while Selthari struck the exposed side of his armor. Sparks erupted. Korvax howled, swinging again, but Jonah ducked beneath the blow and fired upward, straight into the Admiral's chest plate. Korvax staggered, his weapon clattering to the floor. You can't. Selthari's voice was ice and fire combined. "You used mercy as a weakness. We made it our strength." Their bond flared blinding white. Jonah grabbed her hand, channeling every drop of energy left in his armor into her blade. It ignited. Pure light forged from human defiance and alien will. Together, they drove it through Korvax's heart. The warlord screamed as the light consumed him, his armor, his hate, his empire's last breath, then silence. The ship trembled. Jonah fell to one knee, gasping. Selthari caught him, her hand against his cheek. Through the haze of battle and smoke, he could still feel her heartbeat against his own. One pulse, one soul. "It's over," he whispered. She shook her head gently. "No, it's beginning." And outside, the horizon glowed, not from destruction this time, but from dawn breaking through the storm. The medship shuddered, deep metal groaning like a wounded beast. Korvax's dying energy had triggered the fleet's failsafe, a self-destruct chain that would wipe the evidence, the ship, and them with it. Jonah stumbled to his feet, smoke rising from his armor. "We've got minutes before this place goes nova." Selthari steadied him, her fingers trembling. "The weave core still holds power. If we divert it, we can send one last signal to every relay in orbit, the full archive. After that," her voice faltered, "after that, the core burns out." Jonah finished grimly. "And anyone near it." She met his gaze. "It must be done manually. I know the sequence. You must leave." He laughed softly. "Yeah, that's not happening." Selthari stepped closer, eyes bright with desperate calm. "Jonah, listen to me. Your body cannot survive that surge. But I am Viel. My cells were made for resonance." He shook his head. "And I was made for bad decisions. Guess we're both doing our jobs through the bond." He felt her fear. A sharp, beautiful ache. "You cannot always save everyone," her thought brushed against his mind. "Watch me," he replied. Together, they reached the weave chamber. The crystal heart pulsed faintly, dying light rippling across the walls. Jonah began rerouting the power conduits while Selthari sang softly in her language, the same ritual tone she'd used during the healing. Her voice resonated through the metal, vibrating with purpose. "Those are your battle hymns?" he asked, forcing a smile. "No," she said softly. "They are songs for the dying." Jonah looked at her, something inside breaking. "Then let's make it a duet." The weave blazed. Circuits screamed with light. Energy whipped around them, tearing at the walls. Jonah anchored the conduit while Selthari stood at the core, her body glowing brighter, her presence expanding through the link. He could feel her everywhere, her heartbeat, her thoughts, her love. "If I fall," she whispered inside his mind, "carry the song." "Not alone," he answered. "Never alone." The final pulse surged, light engulfing them both. For a moment, Jonah saw everything. Stars igniting, empires collapsing, the truth spreading like dawn across every world. And then silence. When the glow faded, Selthari was slumped against the console, breath shallow but alive. The ship's systems flickered back online. Outside, transmissions echoed through space. The proof had been sent. Jonah knelt beside her, taking her hand. "You did it," he whispered. Her eyes opened weakly. "We did." The ship was breaking apart, but neither moved. The battle was over. And somewhere, far beyond the smoke and ruin, the galaxy had begun to change. Weeks passed before Jonah truly woke again. He opened his eyes to sterile white light and the faint hum of medical machinery. The scent of antiseptic mixed with the low drone of diplomats arguing outside the recovery ward. His body ached, wrapped in regrowth gel and bandages. For a moment he thought he was still dreaming, until he heard a voice. You humans heal slowly, Selthari murmured from beside his bed. He turned his head. She sat there, alive, elegant, wearing light civilian robes instead of armor. The faint shimmer beneath her skin still glowed, softer now. "You made it," he said hoarsely. Her lips curved faintly. "Barely. The weave nearly burned us both apart. Your body fought the overload like a beast." Jonah smiled weakly. "Stubbornness. Told you it's a medical condition." She looked at him quietly, and for the first time he saw the weariness behind her calm. The galaxy knows the truth now. Korvax's crimes, the Council's betrayals. Both our governments are collapsing under investigation. "So, we won?" he asked. Selthari shook her head. "There are no winners in Revelation, only survivors who must rebuild." Jonah exhaled. "Guess we're those survivors, huh?" Her eyes softened. "Because of you, Jonah Hale, mercy became contagion. Soldiers are refusing orders. Colonies are demanding justice. You reminded the galaxy that compassion is strength." He looked down at his bandaged hands. "And what about you?" She smiled gently. "The Vile have asked me to lead a delegation, to form a council with human reformists. They want unity, not empire." Jonah chuckled softly. "And you're saying yes?" "I already did," she said. Then, after a pause, "But not without you." He blinked. "Me?" "You are half of the bond now," she whispered. "You carry my memories as I carry yours. We are not commander and soldier anymore. We are proof that peace is possible." For a long moment, he just stared at her, the alien woman he once found dying in a crater, now standing as a bridge between worlds. "Selthari," he said quietly, "you could have left me in that hospital." Her gaze held his, steady and warm. "I tried," she admitted softly, "but your heart would not let me." Jonah smiled, exhaustion tugging at his eyes. "Then I guess it's your turn to disobey orders." Selthari leaned forward, brushing her fingers against his. "Then let us start a new one together, not of war, but of hope." And somewhere beyond the window, the first peace ships drifted into orbit, carrying not soldiers, but healers and architects, ready to rebuild what compassion had saved. Years later, the scars of war had become monuments of peace. The Unity Ward stood where the medship once crashed, a gleaming sanctuary of glass and light. Humans and Vale walked its halls together, their voices mixing in 100 languages. What was once a battlefield had become the heart of a new alliance. Jonah Hale walked those halls every morning, his limp a quiet reminder of everything they'd survived. He had traded his armor for a simple officer's coat, though the metal pinned to his chest meant less to him than the soft laughter echoing behind him. Selthari entered the atrium carrying a small child wrapped in silvery cloth. The boy's skin shimmered faintly between tones, human warmth and vile luminescence. His eyes, bright storm gray, reflected both his parents. Jonah's tired grin spread as the child reached for him. "He's growing fast." Selthari smiled, the expression gentle and proud. "He will walk between worlds. Neither entirely human nor Viel, but the best of both." Jonah took the boy into his arms, feeling the tiny heartbeat sync naturally with his own. "We should name him something strong." She tilted her head. "You humans love naming things after storms." "Fitting. Since he was born under one," Jonah chuckled. Then, "Callan. It means hope. Where I'm from, hope," she repeated, tasting the word like a song. "Yes, that fits outside the massive glass wall. A new dawn stretched over the rebuilt city. Ships of both empires flew together under the same flag, a symbol Jonah and Selthari had designed. 2 hands, one human and one Vale, joined around a single glowing heart. The boy cooed, fingers reaching toward the sunlight. Selthari touched Jonah's arm lightly. "Do you still hear it?" she asked softly. He smiled, eyes distant. "The bond? Every day. It's quieter now, but it's there." Like an old song I never forget, Selthari leaned her head against his shoulder. Then it worked. The weave didn't just heal us. It healed everything we touched. He looked down at their son, living proof that mercy could build what war never could. "Guess humanity's most dangerous weapon wasn't steel after all," he said quietly. "It was love." Selthari smiled, her eyes glistening. "Then let us keep using it wisely." As the first rays of sunlight filled the hall, Jonah, Selthari, and their son stood framed in the glow. A soldier, a warrior, and a child born of two worlds. The future had many names, but in that moment it needed only one: hope. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy remembered. Not the battles, not the blood, but the day one human refused to leave a stranger behind and changed the stars forever.